Hello, hello. Welcome to Healthy Perspectives, a podcast that takes on current cultural and social issues through a clinical lens. Right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. For those of you who are brand new, thank you for taking a few minutes out of your daily life to give it to us. We try to be very thoughtful of that, and we're going to do that today as well. I am getting after our 25th and our final, for now. We'll see. Maybe it'll roll back around someday. But our final episode of You're the Problem. And today, I'm going to get after somebody that I generally appreciate the viewpoint of, right? Okay, so let me preface. This is, often I address really difficult conversations in here. I address everything from sex to drugs to politics to money, you name it, I address it in here. And why do I do that? I do that because, look, if I'm not willing to get after the hard conversations, well, frankly, I'm a crappy therapist. Now, I'm not your therapist, well, unless you're one of my clients and you happen to be listening to this. But generally, the people who listen here are not my clients. So I address a lot of political stuff because politics are a window into our current culture. They allow us to see certain things that we wouldn't see in other avenues. And so I am going to do that again today. And today I'm going to get after Dan Bongino because often I appreciate his perspective. I tend to listen to some left-leaning or left extreme in some situations, some right-leaning and some right extreme in some situations. Because why? Because I give a crap about our culture. I care about an accurate representation of our culture. There is the loud left and the loud right. They tend to be the extremes. And then there is the majority, which tends to be most of my listeners. You're not, my extremists on either side are probably not going to stick around and listen to my podcast. So today, when I get after Dan Bongino, let me be really clear. If you're assuming that I love or hate a certain political viewpoint, maybe you should ask me the question, because I don't. I think there's good and there's challenges with different vantage points. That's why I go with Healthy Perspectives. Healthy Perspectives is the name because we look at what's healthy versus unhealthy. So when I say Dan Bongino is wrong for his approach, I'm not saying something like he is bad, immoral, terrible, awful, he should go to hell, he's the devil. Like, that's not what I mean. I mean, it is unhealthy. The approach is unhealthy because I'm using the scale of healthy versus unhealthy. That's the scale that I'm using. So without further ado, I have set the stage, I hope, and I am going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen so that some of y'all can see this. The rest of you will hear this. I'm going to play a little clip of Dan Bongino. And then I am going to cut in and I'm going to tell you why I think Dan Bongino is growing less healthy in his approach. Now, I'm not saying he doesn't bring a lot of receipts and facts to the table. He absolutely does. But if you don't do it in a healthy manner, then the reality is you will lose people that are reasonable. And so reasonable people are going to disappear, and you're going to end up, Dan Bongino, if you're listening, with the extremists. And let's be real. We don't want the extremists of the right or the left leading our country. We don't want the loud minority that is crazy. Like, I'm a clinical professional, right? I'm saying the word crazy. I know, but we don't want the people who are crazy to get the influence. That's a bad idea. You know it. Slow down. Pay attention to what you're doing. Okay, there's my little shout out to good old Dan Bongino, which, by the way, let's be real. I'm just a little peon in comparison when it comes to social influence. That doesn't mean that I'm wrong. So if you're listening to this and you think, well, Dan Bongino is huge. Okay. I don't give a crap. Look, as a clinician, I have worked with billionaires, billionaires. I have worked with people who are homeless. And let me tell you something that I have learned, because you need to know this. They all got problems. They all make mistakes. They all have strengths and weaknesses. And they all have value. Maybe not as much as they think they have, maybe not as much as we give them, but they all have value. I care about each and every one of them. That doesn't mean some are going to be healthy to be around. And this is what I'm going to tell you today. Dan Bongino is becoming less healthy in his presentation, and he needs to stop doing it, in my opinion, as a clinician. Right? Because that's the vantage point. I'm like looking at this from a healthy perspective. So let me share with you, and then I'll explain why I think he needs to make a course correction. Wrong one. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. Let's try that again. Okay. Got it. And away we go.
From NOAA, the government entity. There is no strong evidence of century-scale increasing trends in U.S. landfalling hurricanes or major hurricanes. But that means Biden's lying. Of course it means Biden's lying. Biden's always lying. He is a sociopathic, kid-sniffing woman feeler. The guy doesn't have a shred of human dignity at all. He's a bribe-taking loser. Why would Joe Biden ever tell you the truth? He's incapable of telling you the truth. Joe Biden doesn't have an ounce of human character whatsoever. This is the loser we're running against. You see, folks, I get it. Some of you may not like the tone of the show, and that's cool. But the show actually does present facts and data to back up its assertions, even though it may be emotionally strong, and we may go after people here. This is
all right, folks. In this particular section, he's actually acknowledging what I am saying. I don't know if in the moment maybe he realized it, but let's just start with some of the things that he's doing. He's taking a really strong tone. I don't have a problem with that. The Young Turks do the same thing. And yet they also produce some good factual information. But we can't get lost in the emotion of it. In this same episode, he later on went on to talk about he wants you to be angry. No. Functioning from anger means your emotions have overwhelmed you and have spilled out into your anger, and you are going to be less functional in a healthy way from that location. You will. So no, Dan Bongino, not at all. Okay, so let's talk about tactics. He is using what are typically political tactics, demagoguery. He's trying to spur emotion, name calling. What is he? He said something along the lines of he's a kid sniffing loser, like all these things. Look, and you bring the evidence to the table that make a case for people to settle on that themselves, and you let them settle on that. But by name calling, and I know what his argument would be because I've listened to him plenty. His argument would be like, well, if you don't like it, don't listen. Okay, I get it. You're all that in a bag of chips. I get it. But from where I sit, it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy to think that you can just alienate people who would otherwise be willing to listen to all of the things that you say. You don't want to do that. Not on purpose. Trust me, you're going to do it plenty on accident. I do it plenty on accident. But I'm not ever going to do it on purpose. So he calls him names, and then he talks about what a loser he is. And yeah, he's done some things that are definitely, like when he's talking about Joe Biden, he's done things that aren't good. 100% correct. But that's going to get lost because of confirmation bias. What you do there is you're appealing, Dan Bongino, to your population. You're not appealing to anybody that's outside of your population, which means way to hold on to your clients, your listeners. But in terms of expanding it and making it reachable by the middle 80%, that's a crappy job. And if you want to gain influence and make the difference, because truthfully, he's got facts, lots and lots of good facts that people will never hear because they can't listen to this kind of name calling garbage. They can't. It's too indicative of the political arena. Now, this is a political podcast, he might say. Yeah, I get it. But you don't have to be like the enemy. You don't have to be like the enemy. Not necessary. Completely unnecessary. You use their weapons, eventually you're going to get their results. So for somebody like Dan Bongino, this is what I would say. The left right now, this is I'm using some of his framing. He would say that the left right now has become extreme. And then he would say they need to come back to the center. Okay, it's all reasonable, right? Why has the left become extreme? Because they've become loud, obnoxious, name-calling. They avoid facts. They rely on demagoguery. Isn't that what Dan Bongino just did? I'm pretty sure that's what he just did. So is he doing it to recenter everything? What he's going to end up doing is leaning too hard the other direction. That's not healthy. So there has to be a better way. I'm going to give you a clinical a piece of information here before I get into the next video. When we're looking at inward behaviors and outward behaviors, outward is going to be relational, and socially healthy. Inward is going to be selfish and not socially healthy. You have two categories, hard and soft. Can you be outward and hard? Which is what Dan Bongino is trying to do, is be hard. He's trying to be hard. Well, the inward model, this is literally what it says. By the way, this is Arbinger stuff. If you're not familiar with Arbinger, great content. They got a bunch of videos online. Go check them out. Good, smart, well put together. Clinically viable because it's got evidence backing it up. Good content. Inward behaviors that are hard are going to be things like manipulation, threats, control. It's the obstacles are going to be criticizing, blaming, punishing, right? Okay, but let's look at inward soft, indulging, pandering, trying to be liked. All right, let's go to the other side of the table. Outward, which, by the way, remembers healthy versus unhealthy. So now we're going to look at the healthy version of hard. High expectations, real responsibility, challenging, helpful correction. That would be accountability that's not designed to punish, but to correct. It's designed for growth, not punishment. If I'm going to throw you in jail, it's not because I want to punish you. It's about being vindictive or controlling. That's not good justice. That's unhealthy justice. What we are looking for is healthy justice. And the way to do that is, look, it's going to take this for you to grow. Now, there are these certain categories where we're going to say, look, you just need to keep us safe. And the safest thing we could do, because you are a tyrant, you are not healthy for anybody who's around you. Well, the safest place for you then might be jail for very, 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 like your whole life. But if we can rehabilitate, then great. Let's do that. The vast majority of people who go to prison are extremely difficult to rehabilitate. Can it be done? In some circumstances, absolutely. In other circumstances, probably not. Okay. The soft when it comes to outward is listen and learn, offer help, right? This is involve others. Like these are the soft approaches. I'm not asking somebody like a Dan Bongino to go soft, although there is a soft outward behavior and that would be helpful. I'm not asking him to do that. I wouldn't, I'm a matter of fact, I'm not actually asking him anything. I want you, my listeners, to understand that some of the stuff you hear out there is not healthy, even if it comes from a place that you have learned to trust in the past. So soft. I'm not asking for that. I wouldn't ask him for that. If I sat down with Dan Bongino, I wouldn't say, well, let's get soft. Let's get into your feelings. That's not his style anyway. I would say, okay, let's get to a healthy heart. Let's get to where your expectations are high. Your responsibility is high. You're challenging people, but you're having the necessary difficult conversations without going to the hard inward behaviors, the unhealthy side. Because if you start doing that, the end line for you will be the same as it is for the extremes on the left. The extremes on the left and the right are really not all that different. They just hate each other. So they pretend they're all that different. Their approaches are the same. So do not adopt those same techniques. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. That doesn't mean don't politically use some of the techniques that the other side are using. Just don't adopt the unhealthy ones. Refuse to do that. In a place where we are supposed to be free, we should be free to do it the right way. And if people don't want to come along, well, sucks for them. I'm going to get the 80%. You're going to come with me. We're going to make this thing work. All right. I'm going to show you one more clip and then I'm going to move it along for today. This is an interesting clip as well. All right.
This is the Noah report. You can read it there yourself.
My apology. I was trying to shrink it down because I got to get to the next one.
Folks, listen, man, cutesy time's over. I saw a couple people in the chat. Cutesy time's not only over, cutesy time is so over. You need to understand that the only way going forward to return us to some even normal semblance of a constitutional republic is we're going to have to make the left drink the syrup of Ipecac. You understand this? What the left has done to us, they're going to have to experience themselves. Nothing will ever change. Here's the problem, and here's why. For all the establishment swampy Republicans out there who want to take the John McCain, Mitt Romney approach again, oh, if we just play nice, they'll eventually realize they overstepped. Please shut up and exit stage left. You have no idea what you're talking about, and you have zero comprehension of actual human behavior. Listen to me. Once human beings feel the power of being able to subjugate and cancel others, they will never give that up.
Okay, folks, I know you're paying attention. What he just stated, and he would probably not want to hear this, so feel free to forward it to him. He would probably not want to hear this. What he just stated is, it's an eye for an eye. That's the Old Testament. The Old Testament. And then a man came along, Jesus, and he said, hold on, folks. An eye for an eye was put in place for what? Because you, as people, sucked so much at legalism that you thought you could create a system that is as good or better than the one the good Lord has provided, which is relation. So you create all this legalism, and within that, it's an eye for an eye. But wait a second. Why did Jesus come? Come on, folks. This is pretty easy to tell. Oh, he came because legalism didn't work. It didn't work. And so what does he do? He says, look, stop being so legalistic. You are not almighty, big and strong. You can't solve everything. Lean into God. Have a relationship with God. Lean into people and love people. Don't love their flaws. but love the people. Correct the flaws. That doesn't mean an eye for an eye. The syrup of Ikakek. I think I said that right. I don't even know. Whatever that syrup is, the one that's your own poison. All right. So what do? When we take on that mentality, what we are saying is we are superior. We are adopting an air of superiority because we're saying, hey, they suck and they need to realize it. So I am going to be the judge and the jury, which, by the way, is how the extreme left has been functioning, not the ordinary left, but the extreme left. And if the left doesn't like hearing that, well, so what? I'm not here to tell you what you want. I'm here to tell you a healthy perspective. And the extreme left has become hugely problematic. That's why we have the BLM and the Antifa riots where things are getting burned down, destroyed. People are getting attacked. And we're saying that that's not as bad as J6. Come on, extreme left. Or how about I forget extreme left. I'm not that I hate them. I don't know that they would see this. The ordinary left. How can you not see that? Well, they're justified. Stop. They are not justified. There's no justification for going to somebody's home and lighting it on fire. You do that, you're creating an evil moment. Don't do that. Just don't do it. So the idea of an eye for an eye is using the enemy's tactics. That is not a good idea when the enemy is using evil, because what that does is it makes you evil. Come up with a different way. Do better. Now, I don't know about the people he was talking about, McCain, and he's talking about Mitt Romney. Look, there's hard and there's soft. I'm not saying be soft. What I'm saying is be healthy, hard. Accountability is great. The right way. I can look as a counselor. One of the things that I do, I love it when this happens because it's a beautiful moment for the client and I get to witness it. When I tell somebody more or less, not in these words, well, maybe sometimes, you suck. This was just not you. This was not smart. This was a terrible idea. It's unhealthy for you. And they take it and they walk away shaking my hand or giving me a hug. It's the best ever because I was hard in a healthy way, which, by the way, that's why most of my clients come to me, because I'm hard in a healthy way, not hard in an unhealthy way. When I say to a client, by the way, I don't just say that, randomly. If a client knows I care and love them, I can give that to them in a particular way. I can be like, dude, wake up. Just wake up. And they can be like, what? Huh. And then they think about what I said and they know that I love and care about them. And if you're a brand new client of mine, I'm not saying that. I come in soft to build the relationship. And then I can strategically be hard in a healthy way. Think about that, folks. What did we just say? It's still about healthy versus unhealthy. We should not be creating an air of superiority, no matter what side we're on. If we're on the left and we're saying, oh, we're so superior because you're all a bunch of bigots, that's an air of superiority. Well, it's true. I can prove it. You're still in the eye for an eye. You're still in the air of superiority. And what you say then will matter less. So if you want your words to not matter, if you want your actions to not matter, well, then by all means, go for an eye for an eye. If you want your stuff to matter, we have to get away from that kind of conversation. be hard and healthy. Stop alienating people and elevating yourself. You are not that important. You, listening to me right now, you are both unbelievably unique and priceless and not that important. Yep, both of those things exist simultaneously. If I had Dan Bongino, I could tell him the same thing. Matter of fact, my guess, I don't know this for sure, but my guess, if I had a Dan Bongino offline and I said something like that to him, he'd probably be like, yeah, no, I know. I do it because this is what I think I need to do for political purposes. But I'm saying he doesn't have to. If you can't see what I'm throwing down today, folks, you're part of the problem. If you're listening, by the way, TYT and Dan Bongino, they're like very, very similar on opposite ends of the political spectrum. They love demagoguery. They are name calling. They are, but they also produce enough facts to make you go, but there's facts. Like some of these things are really true. And then they suck you in, and then they demagogue in the middle of it, in that big old soupy demagogue mess. And they get you to think things that aren't actually necessarily true. They're emotional. Like he's a kid sniffing, whatever. Like, yeah, no, we know he sniffed kids. Does that mean he's a pedophile? I don't know. I haven't seen any evidence of that. Is it weird? Yeah, it's weird. It's not in the normal spectrum of things, but that doesn't make him a creep. Now, there's lots of evidence that, that maybe he's a little bit on the creepy side in ways, but there's also lines just that shouldn't be crossed. And maybe he didn't cross those. Sniffing a kid is bad. I mean, I shouldn't say bad. It's not ideal. But if I sniff my own kids while they're growing up, I'd be like, oh yeah, you need a new diaper. Nothing wrong with that. Now, I know that's taking what happened there out of context, but to generalize it like that, that's not a good idea. It's just not a good idea. And we got to be better than that. We just do. We have to be better than that. All right. If you can't see this, remember, you're the problem. Share this with some folks. All the links are in the details, and let me know what you think. Send me questions. That concludes our 25th episode of You're the Problem. So now go out there, empathize better, manage your conversations better, love a little bit more. I appreciate you joining us, and have a great day. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. We appreciate our audience a lot, so we give you some simple ways to track us down. Please like, subscribe, and follow all the podcasts on different platforms, but you can also email us at healthyperspectives@protonmail.com, or you can check out our website at healthy-perspectives.com/podcast. It's a backward slash. So if you want to go to our landing page, if you go to healthy-perspectives.com, you'll still find us. You just got to click on the podcast button. Thank you so much.